Listen, I'm just saying it right now. This is why you don't bet against Tsukimichi Season 2. I'm not saying Tsukimichi Season 2 is perfect. I've had my fair few issues with the first core of it, and I've brought it up when I was covering those episodes. But Core 2 onwards has been perfection for me. And while there's definitely a lot of varying opinions, I think Episode 19 is a great indicator of why you don't bet against Tsukimichi. There's one character I really want to discuss, and that is Zara. When he was initially brought up, there was because anytime you have a character that puts your MC down, there's always going to be at least a vocal minority, and often it's a vocal majority who will say, that dude's a douchebag, we don't like him because he makes our MC look pathetic. But at the end of the day, Makoto is a very not that great merchant. He's very average and he's naive because this still is fairly new to him. But the interesting thing that I've always really liked about Makoto is when you take a step back, he could be a world-ending threat if he wanted to. Mio? Tomoe? I mean, those two alone, with given orders, go run amok. Rip bozos. You add in his core crew, he could be a terrorist. Like, there's no other way to put it. But that's not who he wants to be. And things were going well for him, and then he got a reality check that he actually didn't know a lot about merchant life. And that conversation with him and Rembrandt, and just the fluctuating opinions, and how his opinion on Makoto was so different, like obviously thankful for the help, but also just kind of disgusted, like, why would someone with this much power be so shitty at being a merchant before having the wake-up call of being like, hey bro, we all start there. We all start in a way of thinking like him or similar, and how things change and how we got to where we are. And that whole dynamic is worth talking about in length, but I just wanted to start this video saying, that scene alone was enough to prove why you don't bet against the character writing, that there's always a plan, there's always a reason, but like, that was brilliant. Of course, I have full live reactions to all these wonderful episodes over on Patreon. If you want to see my full link and thought to this latest episode or any of these Tsukimichi episodes, it's going to be over there exclusively. So, the Zara and Rembrandt scene was fantastic. I liked his scene when he put down our boy, because I thought it was such a... You don't normally see that in isekai, where that deep into a show, your character doesn't get treated as there, because usually when you have a character like, you know, Makoto, even if he's been screwed by the goddess, no one can prove him wrong because he's too strong and his strength makes it him impossible to defeat. But the thing about Makoto is, he tries to avoid violence, he's willing to kill people, he's killed people, he's willing to let shit happen to get the most benefit out of things. But he's not going to go out of his way to just say, this dude put me down and was real mean to me, so I'm going to kill him. That's not his character. And there's a lot about Makoto's character that does seem to be forgotten, and maybe it's because of Season 1 having a decent length, or, I don't know, I swear some people who watch the show skip past half the dialogue scenes with the comments I'll read between Reddit and stuff. But I love the idea that you can actually see, as the conversation goes on, that Zara actually sees a lot of himself in Makoto when he started out. Because as even like Rembrandt is saying, like, hey, you know, there's, yeah, as things change, the naive approach of wanting to cure the world, save the world, sell a cheap product, right? That's not how it is. You have to kill people with power. You have to kill people with money. If you want to be at the top of the game in the merchant world, that's how it works. There's a reason why he bent Makoto over and spanked him on the bottom during the episodes back, like 3 or 4 episodes back, whenever that happened, right? Because at the end of the day, clearly what you're selling is valuable, but you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, we're going to exploit you because I'm on the top of the food chain. That's how he was guaranteed treated when he first started out, and he rose above it. Makoto had a lot to learn about being a merchant. But now we're not in a situation of dealing with just basic trading company stuff. We're dealing with apocalypse level threats that could destroy everything. And we have a boy with a couple of his followers who has connections that make no sense at face value, and the idea that he's basically he's frustrated because it's like, this guy has this much power. He is this strong. Why in the hell did he not threaten me back? Like, there's so much like conflicting emotions of like, he could have easily killed me in that moment, and he didn't. It just adds to the confusion of what Makoto is. And the idea that, when this is all said and done, there's 2 ways this is going. Right now, Betting Man would say Makoto's going to come out of this one on top. However, there's still uncertainties. There's still the goddess. There's still a lot of, like, I mean, the headmaster, I don't think he can do too much, but he does seem like a douchebag, so I wouldn't put it past him. There's a lot of ways things could be manipulated, and here's the thing. if push comes to shove, and Makoto has to fight his way out of something, would he win? Most likely. But the thing about Makoto is he's really just trying to have a pretty normal life and kill a goddess after everything that's basically happened. And if he can't kill a goddess, at least smack her around a few times, because the bitch deserves it from his point of view, and I completely agree. But that dynamic and just watching the cleanup, because it's child's play. My boy looks at two of the most powerful people in this world that we know of and says, hey, whoever kills the most, I'll grant you a wish, as long as it's something I can do. Kind of felt bad for Tomoe. It's kind of a dick move, if I'm being honest. I'm kind of on Tomoe's side because she's like, bro, why wasn't I part of this deal? Well, I gave you a different job. Okay. So give her a wish. Like, that's not fair. Like, they're clearly all, like, indebted to you and worship the ground you walk on. I don't know, I got a little salty on her behalf, but it was just such a fun scene. And just the idea of then you have Aqua and Eris. These girls, man, for, like, most of the season, like, the first core, they were nothing but banana jokes. And now look at them. Now, it's funny because, you know, the idea that the headmaster was pretty much trying to make these students, because we pretty much put them on house arrest saying, hey, if anything happens, you can defend. It wasn't actually that. It was more of like, hey, it's like a parent leaving their kids home. You know, you're the man of the house. If anyone tries to break in, you got to protect your babysitter. It's like, no, actually, Aqua and Eris would make sure that you're okay. And they do the big ice shield that they did near the end of the first core or whatever. And the idea that when Makoto comes in, and I love how she explains, oh, he's like a mole, he came up like that. I don't know, it was just a very fun dynamic, and just in general, it was a fun episode. It kind of felt to me like watching two episodes, not in the way that it felt dragged out, but it's hard to imagine, and if you really break down moment by moment, by the time you reach like the midway point of this episode, it feels like 20 minutes worth of content, not in the way that it's stretched or it felt rushed, but just like, I'm blown away they're able to make so much happen in a singular episode. And yes, I do think this was definitely one of the strongest episodes of Season 2, but I think 13 onwards has been the peak of Tsukimichi, if I'm being honest. The first core of Tsukimichi Season 2, it's a little bumpy, but we had to play catch up. We had to get the setup out of the way, and I didn't find it at any part boring. It's just there was definitely certain episodes that were better than others and lower points that were lower than others. But I don't know, man. I'm at a point where I can definitely say Season 2 has surpassed Season 1, and even with the issues I had maybe in the first core, the writing and the payoff moments are so good, and characters who I expected to just be evil bitches who would manipulate us have actually had our back more than I was initially giving credit. There's so many things at play. The goddess is still a wild card, but either it's going to all work out Makoto and we don't have to resort to violence, or things are going to be very manipulative and exploitive and we're going to have to resort to violence, but time will tell. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode, because, you know, there's definitely been a lot of people betting against this season of Tsukimichi, and I definitely think there's been a lot of misunderstanding of Makoto's character and stuff, like I mentioned last week, but I think moments, especially with the Zara stuff, and just, it feels like such payoff, and just like, it makes the dynamics more complex, and his initial meeting with him all the more complex, but I digress. Let me know what you're feeling down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can know if I went up a little more, and like I mentioned, got those full live reactions over on Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alrighty, so today we got R Squirrel, Jackson Smith, Jacob Darkfire, Maruno Santagio, Kanagi, and Miguel Francis. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.